So, I wrote my Walmart Thundertron rant video in late July, early August of 2024, around the same time that figure first hit shelves. However, that video didn't come out until October, meaning basically anything that was considered new or upcoming was probably already out by the time that video aired. I guess I should probably make this a tradition now, huh? Wow, can you believe they revealed a reissue of Velocitron Cosmos? Can't wait for that figure to be released. I'm writing this in November 2024, meaning that figure should almost certainly be up by the time this video airs. Wait, what do you mean the last wave of Legacy Unite isn't dropping until March? And Age of the Primes Wave 1 is not dropping until May? Hasbro, what is up with your distribution lately? Anyways, one of the figures that had semi-prominence in my Thundertron video is the focus of today's video. That figure being Legacy United Leader Class Soundwave. A figure who was controversial when I wrote my Thundertron video, and one which my opinion on it was almost more controversial than my take on Thundertron a couple months later. However, I wrote that video back when we still only had stock images of the thing. But by the time I released that video, I had gotten this figure within the same week, and I was worried I would have to eat my own words before I'd even said them to the public. But I'm happy to say that I was mostly right. Is it worth leader price? To a degree. Is it still more worth the leader price than Thundertron? Yes, 100 times yes. This is my review of Legacy United Leader Class Soundwave, Buzzsaw, Ravage, Rumble, and since I'm probably never going to give him his own review considering he's a straight up repaint of Rumble, I might as well throw Core Class SS86 Frenzy into this video as well. Let's start with the big kahuna himself, Soundwave. He is, as expected, a straight up re-release of the Earthrise figure, who in itself was a retool of the Siege figure, but with slightly better colors. And by that I mean the only real difference is that the gold on his cassette door matches the accents on his chest, and that's about it. Oh, also I guess due to him being made of modern plastic, he hopefully won't be horribly yellowed in a couple years like the original. Now look, I never got the Earthrise Soundwave, mainly because I wasn't even collecting Transformers when it was released. And while I hadn't heard the greatest things about it, I thought I'd still give it a chance. But Peyton, don't you know we're going to be getting an SS86 Soundwave at some point? Why buy the clearly inferior figure? I'll tell you why. Because, well, yes, we are probably getting an 86 Soundwave within the near future. Said near future still isn't for another 2 years at the least. We have the listings for Studio Series for next year, and it doesn't include Soundwave, meaning we won't be getting an 86 figure until, at the earliest, 2026. And frankly, I just can't wait that long to have a chug-scale version of one of my favorite fictional characters of all time. Not to mention that it comes with Buzzsaw, a Recordicon who hasn't gotten a figure in almost a decade, and a version of 86 Rumble, who is a figure I've been wanting to get since I started collecting. But on the topic of the figure itself, it's fine. It looks enough like G1 Soundwave, just with the added War for Cybertron greeble on every part of him. He unfortunately still has the landing gear from the Siege figure, which I really think should have been retooled away, especially with the extra leader budget. It's not awful, and it doesn't really hinder posability, it's just a bit of an eyesore. Speaking of, his articulation is alright. Head can turn all the way around, has a little bit of side to side, and can be mistransformed for some extra up, allowing for some classic G1 flying action. Cassette window can be very satisfyingly opened with the push of a button. It's a little less satisfying when there's a cassette inside, but more on that later. Arms are unimpeded going around or out, though they weirdly lock at his sides when they're slightly extended, which can be a little annoying when posing him. Bicep swivel and double-jointed elbows, wrists that hinge inwards, a hip skirt and back plate that can be moved to have unimpeded legs in all directions, thigh swivel and 90 degrees of bend at the knee, and finally an ever so slight ankle tilt. So yeah, the elbows are great, everything else is kinda average if not worse. For accessories that go specifically with Soundwave, he comes with his shoulder cannon, which can be angled up and down and turn left and right, and his battery blaster, as well as this gun pull thing. It's a holdover from the Earthrise figure, and it's supposed to be the barrel of Megatron's back cannon in his G1 design, but I don't have a Siege or Earthrise Megatron. Thankfully, I found another use for it, as a handle extender for Siege Smashdown / Legacy United Malleus Minotaurus, turning the usually short and dinky handle of those figures into something actually substantial. However, obviously if you don't have either of those figures or a War for Cybertron Trilogy Megs, then it's kinda useless to you, but for me, it's not a bad addition. Transformation is okay at best. It's not a terrible conversion, but there are some parts that just aren't satisfying, like the landing gear never staying in place, and the leg panels rarely pegging into the feet properly, and the front piece being incapable of pegging into the place it's supposed to go. And the end result sure is an alt mode. The funny part is that it's still better than the alt mode of Studio Series Bumblebee movie Soundwave, but not by much. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this thing. I mean, just look at it. You can see what's wrong with it for yourself. Anyways, on to the main reason I bought this set. The cassettes. Let's start with Buzzsaw. Similar to Soundwave, this is my first experience with the Siege / Earthrise Laserbeak mold, and it's a pretty positive one. There's so much detail on such a tiny figure, and the beautiful gold paint and plastic really elevate this figure. Articulation for a figure this small is surprisingly good. Head and neck can individually move up and down, and the wings can move in and out. Transformation is quick, easy, and results in a beautiful cassette that fits perfectly in Soundwave. Each one of the cassettes are on a spectrum of how well they fit inside Soundwave, and Buzzsaw is easily the best of them. Then we have the complete opposite on almost every level. Ravage, who just sucks. I knew he would suck just from looking at him, but I didn't think it was this bad. He's just so weirdly chunky, and almost certainly based on a dog for some reason. I don't know why this is hard for people to understand, considering that Ravage has always been cat-like, with the one exception being the War for Cybertron trilogy, but Ravage is a jaguar, not a dog. This shouldn't be hard to understand. Anyways, articulation also sucks. His back legs cannot go back at all, and while he has knees, I can't use them without popping the legs off their sockets half the time, though it tends to happen more often during transformation. Speaking of, that also sucks. Going into cassette mode is usually fine, but going back into his robot mode is really clashy and not fun. His alt mode is admittedly alright, but he also fits inside Soundwave's chest, the second worst of all of them, despite this and the Laserbeak mold being specifically designed for this Soundwave figure. Don't know how that works. Finally, we have Rumble, as well as Studio Series 86 Frenzy, since they're basically the same figure. And yes, I will be calling the blue one Rumble and the red one Frenzy. Those are the names that I use for them respectively, and if you don't like that, you are permitted to leave. Anyways, both of these guys rock. They're Soundwave's little gremlins, and I wouldn't have them any other way. Plus, despite being leader price, this is still probably the cheapest way to get an 86 Rumble, considering the original now sells for the same price, if not more, than this set for just Rumble, which is dumb and stupid, and I'm happy I now have this version, so I no longer am tempted to pay that ridiculous price. Rumble is one of my favorite G1 characters, and due to Hasbro doing away with the core class next year, there's a good chance the original may never get reissued, so I'm happy to finally have a version of this mold for this character. Even if I kinda prefer the cartoon-accurate color scheme of the original, this one has more of a toy-accurate deco, which is ironic because the original G1 figure was the thing that started the eternal war within the fandom as to who was who between these two goobers. Articulation is all around good, though I really wish that considering they were bumped up from Micromasters to core classes that they could have had elbows, especially since the eject that came with Kingdom / 86 Blaster has elbows. But hey, they can be posed in the way to do the thing with their pile drivers, and that's all I really care about. Speaking of, unlike the other two, these guys come with accessories. Good accessories. They both have two guns, both of which can either be stored on their backs or mounted to their arms, and they each come with two pile drivers, which can attach to their arms. Transformation is also fun. It's relatively simple and results in amazing alt modes. These two probably look the most like real cassette tapes out of the bunch. These two don't fit great in Soundwave's chest, but that's excusable since this mold is meant to go with a different Soundwave entirely, even if we still have zero indication of when we're getting said Soundwave. Overall, good little core classes, and Rumble's inclusion in this set honestly made this set 10 times more worth the price for me personally. Finally, I want to make a couple quick comparisons to other figures. First off is this Soundwave compared to one of the best figures in my entire collection, Kingdom Core Class Soundwave. It is amazing how much better this Legends figure is to the Voyager, and apparently I'm not the only one to think that, since Soundwave's artwork on the box of the Legacy Unite figure is based directly off the Core class, not the Voyager. You can tell due to him missing the landing gear. The fact Hasbro knows how much better the Core class is compared to this figure, but still used none of the extra budget to fix it, is just funny to me. One more important comparison is how he stacks up with 86 Blaster, who's pretty much a head taller than this Soundwave. I know a lot of people are annoyed by this, but it doesn't really bother me that much. In any case, these two do look good together, and it's a shame the franchise hasn't done anything with their rivalry since Generation 1. So in the end, do I recommend this set? I don't think it's a bad set overall, but if you're someone who already has a different Soundwave, or able to hold out until the 86 figure, then you probably don't need it. However, this set is also the only way to get a modern Buzzsaw, and is the cheapest way to get an 86 Rumble. So for those reasons, it's almost worth picking up. I don't know, if it was just Soundwave and the accessories dedicated for him, then this would probably be a 4 out of 10. But the inclusion of Buzzsaw, Rumble, and me actually finding a use for the Megatron barrel is enough for me to bump it up to a 6 out of 10. Yeah, that sounds more like it. What do you guys think of this set? Do you see it as a ripoff, or do you see any value in it? Feel free to answer in the comments. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
I do not wish to harm a fellow machine. Can you not see humans are the evil ones? Especially after the way this one treated you. Then you finally accept that humans are too fickle and unpredictable. Machines are consistent. Machines are superior. I offer you the only logical solution. Finish her.